Hello, and welcome to the Reach or Miss Show, the podcast for the customer-focused entrepreneur, where Hayut Yogev speaks with entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs about reaching or missing the critical point of approaching the right customer with the right message at the right time and place. The point where business success starts. And here is your host, Hayut Yogev.
Reach or Miss, Episode 54. The truth about the chances of an entrepreneur to succeed. Conclusions for my first year of podcasting. This episode is the last and final part of my first year anniversary special events. The issue of entrepreneurial and startup success rate seems to be a major issue. There isn't a question about the high chances of failure. Did you ever ask yourself why? 20 years ago, establishing a startup involved trying new and unfamiliar technologies, which had quite a high chance of failing. But today, most of the startups are about new habits or better ways to organize traditional processes. Most of the technology is mature, and it seems like there shouldn't be such a high percentage of failing startups and entrepreneurial businesses. Analysts say at any given moment, 70 people around the world are trying to develop a solution to any specific problem. I can assure you that the one who wins the market won't be the one with the best technology. Most of them would probably be sufficient. Technologies aren't a barrier anymore. The one that will win the market will be the one that manages to drive the most people to use and buy their solution. This is called marketing. As I define it, marketing is about looking at things from the point of view of your potential users, because the money we are looking for is in their pockets. I started this podcast as part of my mission over the last 10 years to increase the chances of entrepreneurial business success. As hard as I looked, there weren't enough professional analysis of entrepreneurs' success rate. This podcast, where I interview successful entrepreneurs weekly, was born in order to help entrepreneurs succeed by learning from other entrepreneurs and finding the patterns that work best. What are these successful patterns that my interviewees talked about? There are 3 of them. It starts with understanding your audience. It's almost impossible to count the number of times interviewees spoke of the need to really talk to your audience and to avoid doing things you think and instead start doing things your audience needs or wants. 3 of the best known and most successful entrepreneurs, Michael Stelzner, Chris Brogan, and John Lee Dumas, use this exact issue as an example of their failures. By the way, each of them tried it after the first big success. Michael Stelzner, the founder and CEO of the most successful social media blog and conference, tried to adopt something that worked in the world of social media to a totally different field.
Okay, so I was already very successful, and in my mind I thought, well, I'll just take what I've done here and I'll try it in a new space. And I should be successful because I've done it before. I just assumed. So I started a project called MyKidsAdventures.com. And my goal was to create something for parents of young children who were looking to help them do things in a non-digital way, like in the great outdoors or in your backyard or, with things that you can hold in your hands, like, robots or just anything that was not a computer screen, And it didn't work. And I spent an enormous amount of money on it. It was a huge failure. And this is while Social Media Examiner was exploding. So all of a sudden I had 2 different projects going on, one that was successful and one that I wanted to be successful. And I was pretty much, totally distracted and didn't realize what I had right in front of me. So the lesson that I learned from this is that we must stop something to start something. And it was not the right time for me to take this project on. I shut the thing down, but I learned a lot in the process because I learned how really to stay focused and to run experiments and not just invest $300,000, which is how much I and hire lots of people just assuming you know what's going to work. And that's why today we don't launch anything without a lot of research. And we made some critical mistakes about this one. It was a great learning experience and very humbling.
John Lee Dumas wanted to offer a service of establishing a podcast like his most successful podcast for entrepreneurs to others that wanted a podcast for their own.
This was a large mistake that I made that I have not replicated since, because it was a big waste of time, energy, effort, and money. It goes back to 2013 when I had a lot of people saying, John, I love your podcast. Like, I'd love to create my own podcast in my own industry or niche. And me saying, well, what should I do? How would I create a entire platform that I will create other people's podcasts for them? I'll host their shows. I'll edit their podcasts. I'll create their show notes. I'll do it all, for just a couple $100 a month. And I thought that it was going to be a no-brainer. In fact, I called it Pod Platform. And everybody that I ran the idea by were like, John, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, that's wonderful. And I went out, hired the virtual assistants, built a team, got the hosting ready, and everything was prepped. And then I launched, and only one person signed up for the service.
Wow.
And luckily, it was the perfect number and I say that because if I had 0 people that signed up, I might have tried to relaunch and done it again. Or if I had 100 people sign up, I would have been really obligated to those 100 people because a lot of people would have put their trust in me. Fortunately, again, in hindsight, only one person signed up, which quickly led me to realize that, wow, I don't want to be in this business because I don't want to be editing people's shows and uploading their intros and outros and hosting it for them and doing all the things that it takes to essentially run a podcast, but running somebody else's podcast. And I was then able to go back to just the one person and say, listen, I'm sorry. Here's your money back. This is just not the type of business that I want to run. So instead of, having to either go to 100 people or think or not even know that I didn't want to run that business because 0 people signed up. Fortunately, one person signed up and showed me this is not what I want to do. But I wasted so much time, so much energy, so much money finding that out when I could have said, hey, everybody's telling me they want this. Before I actually go out and create this and hire people and train and all this, let's actually have people put their money where their mouth is and invest in this product before it exists. And I did that a few months later with Podcasters Paradise, and that concept really caught on. I had 50 people sign up before we launched, which made me realize that, wow, I can really turn this into something. And now fast forward to today, Podcasters Paradise has over 3,000 members, over $4 million in revenue, all because I went about it in a different way.
You should read because I enjoy Podcasters Paradise so much. It's such a tool. Of course. Everything you teach me, I use. And I just wanted to ask you, how long did you wait to see how many people are going to join you?
I did the whole launch, so it was like a week launch, and I opened the cart and I, pushed it hard and went throughout the week, and then I closed the cart and, so it was like a whole launch sequence that I kind of went through. And when just the one person signed up, I said, you know what? This just isn't something that seems to be catching on. And then when I started doing the work, I was like, and this is not work that I want to be doing. So that made me realize I needed to pivot fast.
Knowing to shut down something, knowing that something doesn't succeed, it's really a gift as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly like Mike and John, Chris Brogan tried to create something he thought would be a big success, but didn't take his own advice to find out who really needed it.
Oh my gosh, I fail every day. So,
Sure.
Such a option.
All of us.
Yeah, my biggest ones, I guess. Anytime I try to design from my idea or my arrogance or my ego, that usually fails. So when I say, this is what customers will want, that's when I fail. Because I believe that I know what's best, just like a parent. I am like on the plate, I am like broccoli. And it would be great to eat more broccoli. Your body wants more broccoli most people. And, your body says, I would feel so much better if you ate that. But broccoli is not sexy. And sometimes people think they want cake, So I have to deliver broccoli cake if I'm going to help my customer. So my big failure, for instance, I launched a project
broccoli
where
cake? No.
Yeah, I call it you hide the broccoli in the cake.
Okay.
But when I make that joke, sometimes people think that's the most horrible thing, and then I always tell them, well, there's things like zucchini bread, so there's precedent, and there's carrot cake, so there's precedent. We hide food like that. So my biggest failure was I started a bunch of little private online communities that I thought everyone was going to love. I started one for health care stuff. I started one for nonprofits. I started one for real estate. And I had other people try to run them and be the face of them. And I failed horribly. I spent so much money and lost it all. Because just asking someone to run the community doesn't mean they know how to be a good community leader and how to help people really connect inside those groups. But it came from, a very general experience of not working from that side of the fence of this is what might benefit a customer. Everyone is so smart. I know some people in the startup community in Tel Aviv, for instance, and they're all so smart. Well, because my former boss and mentor, Jeff Pulver, spends time with Yossi Vardy.
The breakfast with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I know those people, and I've had the pleasure of sitting with Israeli startups a bunch of times, and I know you speak to more than just Israeli, but I know that's kind of where you're based. But the experience I have many times with those people, many times with different people, young, excited men and women who tell me about their great product, is they've developed a product they know how to create, but they haven't necessarily developed a product that anyone asked for. And I think that's the big challenge. And I think it's how do you take your wizardry and your youth and your brilliance, or sometimes your age. I love older people in startups way more than I love younger ones. And how do you take that wisdom and apply it to a real customer challenge? I think nothing happens until we do that. And the biggest startups that we all praise came from solving a very simple problem very well.
The second pattern is the critical issue of changing the attitude from selling to your audience to serving them. Josh Alledge invented 2 successful startups, but that only happened after a big failure helped him understand what he needed to do in order to succeed. Join me to listen to Josh's story about the lesson he learned.
So when I owned a small town newspaper, Hayut, one job that I had to do at the beginning, but I really was so uncomfortable with it, was selling. And because I had a belief that selling was simply trying to convince somebody of something. And because of that, I felt so scared, and I ended up failing in business miserably as a result of that. And so my next position after that business went bankrupt, and I mean literally bankrupt. It was a very painful experience, but I needed that experience to really push me outside my comfort zone. So for the next 5 years, I did sales and marketing for a network of law firms, and I was basically expected to sell every single day, if I wanted to make any money. It's mostly commission based. And so you have to imagine that this was so uncomfortable for me, particularly at the beginning. But then I evolved over the course of 5 years to the point where I said, you know what? This has absolutely nothing to do with convincing people, but this has to do with listening to people's needs and finding out if I can help them. And if I can't, then that's fine. Or maybe the way I can help them is by recommending a different product or service, or making a personal connection. Maybe that was how I could bring the most value to that person in that moment. And when that shift happened, Hayut, my income instantly went through the roof. I loved what I did. I woke up happy to do my work, and I just enjoyed the customers and clients that I had the privilege of working with. I just absolutely loved the work that I did.
And that was with the law firm, with the sales and marketing?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was good because it really prepared me for Savings Angel, because by the time I launched Savings Angel, I had no fear. I honestly believe that I don't really have any fear of asking for things or asking for a sale, because I know in my heart of hearts that what I'm asking for would be a win-win, or would be, of tremendous value for that person. And ultimately it's their decision. But I just remember, breaking the back of fear in sales. And now at this point, it's like, it's hard for me to even remember what it was like to be afraid of being rejected. I don't care if someone rejects me, they're not rejecting me. They're just saying that, no, that's not a fit for them in that moment. And, that it would probably be better for me to see if there's a different way that I can bring value to that person.
And the third pattern is about the best ways to promote your product, or I probably should say the best ways to not promote your product. If it's all about serving your customers and not selling them, if it's about truly understanding what they need and want, don't promote. Share advice and answer their questions. Cara Johnson told us about educating her customers.
That goes back to that focus on education of my industry, and not just looking at marketers, but looking at business owners and people who are responsible for making the business vision or business objectives successful. And that's when I turned the corner and I looked at how could I continually focus on educating people in the world in which I live, and realizing that there's a lot I know that I take for granted. And that was when I first started blogging, and that's been about 5 years ago. And when I started to blog, it was slow and awful. I'm just going to admit it. And it's getting into that discipline of breaking down a lot that you want to deliver to people into small pieces. Because otherwise what we do is we try to teach people, but we try to teach them so much all at once that we're not able to break it apart and give it to them in ways that are helpful. And in doing that, I was able to start creating some, I call them ultimate guides, to teach people how to do things. And it's those blog posts and those ultimate guides and the different conversations that I've had with people. That was the foundation for the last book that I wrote. And it's also quickly becoming the foundation for the next one I hope to write.
Oh, can you tell us about the last book?
Well, the last book was called Experiences, the Seventh Era of Marketing. And it's looking at how we can deliver value to people that's outside of the products or services that we sell. So if we look at a company like Nike, they have a fitness app that you can use, and that delivers value to people, whether you ever buy their shoes or their workout clothes or whatever that might be. We saw Kraft do this with the Food and Recipes magazine that they publish, and it's adding so much value that it's able to generate revenue. So looking at what is it that companies can deliver that adds value that we don't often think about in addition or sit shoulder to the products and services that we sell.
Jonathan Offre, who focuses on growth hacking, told us how he connects with customers.
So the thing is, a lot of startups actually find us. A lot of businesses find us and they contact us first. The way we get customers, we get them a lot with inbound marketing. So we have this strategy where we create content and people find us through social media, through Google search engines, through LinkedIn. So a lot of most of our clients right now, they find us. We don't even look for them really. I think growth hacking is really misinterpreted.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people get confused with what growth hacking is, and I just want to say what I think it is. I think there's so many definitions on the internet,
I would love to hear that.
Some people say one thing, some other people say another thing. And the thing is, I find many entrepreneurs, they contact us, is like, oh yeah, growth hacking is like a cheap marketing strategy where you get millions of customers. And no, that's not, I wish it was that easy, but it's not, that's not what it is. I mean, if it was that easy, I would just like open a new business every day, make millions of customers and sell it. That's not that easy. Growth hacking is, in my opinion, it's a process. It's more a process of, what's important in growth hacking is the word growth, not the word hacking. The word growth is important, and growth is really a process. And the process goes from, first of all, you need to know what you want to grow. You need to choose one or two metrics that you want to grow. Is it the number of sales? Is it the number of leads? Is it the traffic you have on your website? Is it the videos? If you are YouTube, is the number of videos? Is it the number of people who use your product? You need to choose one or two metric maximum, and then you have to focus on those. And the thing is, a lot of people don't even understand this first basic of choosing one metric, and they will be, I ask them, what's your traction or what's your growth? And they tell me, I have, 20,000 fans on Facebook, or I have 20,000 people who like me on Instagram or anything. And ask them, so your growth goal is to have Instagram fans? And they're like, no, my growth goal is to make sales. So I'm like, so how many sales did you make through Instagram? Is tell me 0. So I'm like, okay, so then you don't have any growth, except if you want to become an Instagram influencer, then that makes sense to have followers. But if not, you should follow on your KPI, on your metric. And I think as then once you have the metrics, then you have like a lot of strategies to grow those metrics, and that's where growth hacking comes in. You have data, you have design, you have customer experience, you have digital marketing. A lot of channels goes into it. And you also have product management. So like it's a lot of I would say it's a cross-function job. There's so many things involved.
And last but not least is Dan Knowlton, who explains, we focus on creating as much value, adding content that helps and attracts customers to us. So they come to us and say, we see what you do and we want to work with you.
I'm passionate about a lot of things, to be honest, but I guess
that's good.
I guess exactly. But I guess one of the main kind of things I'm passionate about is really education, is educating and helping other people get to grips with the successful social media and digital marketing strategies that we've used to grow our business. And we do this through a variety of channels, through creating educational content, through speaking at events, through doing podcasts like this. And I guess if I was to look at what we enjoy doing most and what we're really passionate about, it's educating. The best customers for us have a few kind of similarities. So first of all, they really understand the value in what we do. So, starting out, when we started out in business, we really had the mindset where, right, we need to get income. Anyone that wants to work with us, we want to work with, because, we're just starting out and we need to get out there. But we've soon come to realize that, our best customers are the people that really value what we do. They understand, they don't need convincing and us chasing them saying, come on, do this great social media stuff, work with us. The people who you chase always tend to be the customers that are never satisfied and are the hardest work, basically. One thing is mindset. So they understand the value in what we do. Also understanding that, this whole social media digital marketing thing isn't just a magic pill that you do one thing and boom, you get this amazing results from. They truly understand that this is something that needs to really be kind of intertwined with their business, with all different elements. They need a team on board that's going to really make this a success. So that's another thing. And also finally, customers that have similar values to us, customers that really we can relate to. And, our 3 kind of core values are, first of all, to have fun. Secondly, to grow and make money for us and for our clients. And finally, to kind of live our values through everything we do. So, customers who are really in line with those values, we seem to have the best relationships with, get the best results for, and they're the kind of people we want to look for to work with.
I have often written about talking with your customers and not selling them, but I don't think I've written enough about sharing instead of promoting. Think of yourself. How do you look at promoting ads? I believe that these 3 patterns will drive your next entrepreneurial business success. I would love to hear your story of attracting potential customers. And until our new and first interview for the 2nd year of Reach or Miss podcast next week, Monday morning, I'll say goodbye. And for you, our listeners, until the next time, it all goes down to this. You either reach or miss. Keep reaching your goals and vision. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Reach or Miss Show, the podcast for the customer-focused entrepreneur. You can find all the information, links, and resources that was mentioned at the show in our website, reachormiss.com. See you next week.